Hello and welcome to another episode of the After School Club with myself, Max Pembleton. Thank you for joining us. Today we're joined by Jason Hallam, the owner and founder of Hallam Wealth. Jason is a financial advisor, and today it's all about educating people on finance, why it's important, and how to get started working with a financial advisor. Thanks for listening. Here we go. Hi Jason, how you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Very well. Thank you for joining us on the After School Club podcast. Really appreciate your time.
Looking forward to it. Yeah,
Good.
I've been follower and watcher, so
I appreciate it.
Subscriber.
And thanks for sharing. I saw that the other day, so thank you. So, obviously what we're going to speak about today is finance, and for a lot of people, it's a pretty scary topic, I think.
Yeah.
So the first thing I just want to ask, today we want to educate people on finance. First question, quite a simple one. What is it that you do?
Question. Yeah. My team asks me that every day.
Yeah.
So financial advisor is quite a broad subject, quite a broad topic, but fundamentally we educate clients, we create strategies, create plans. We manage, we maintain those plans to meet their goals, aspirations, and that might look like setting up insurance policies. It might look like investing money, managing money. It might look like setting up pensions, trying to be tax efficient in structures, and then looking at like inheritance tax and legacy planning to pass down generations to kids.
Okay.
So a range of things actually, and you can include mortgages on there. You can include commercial advice on there, so to businesses.
Yeah.
So it's quite broad. It covers a lot of things.
Sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lot. So just getting straight into it, for someone that doesn't really have an idea about any of those things that you've just mentioned.
Yeah.
How do they get started?
As a financial advisor?
No, actually from the other side of things, coming to you as one of your clients.
Yeah, great questions. Good. So most of our clients, I'd probably say 90% of our clients come from referrals. So people that are already dealing with financial advisors.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably because we don't market a lot. We don't advertise. Well, I certainly don't advertise a lot. So we trusted people, clients that work with us, refer us when it normally comes a little bit too late. So it normally comes when an individual feels like they need financial advice, not 20 years, 30 years before they actually should be putting a structure in place for financial advice. You always wait until they're about to get some money, or they're about to sell a business, or they're about to get diagnosed with something. And it's always a time then you have to act really, really quickly.
So your recommendation would be to get into it as early as possible.
Yeah, I think if you're young, or if your parents, your relatives have got financial advisors, just ask the financial advisor for half an hour of the time and say, look, what are the kind of things I should be looking at? What kind of things would sharpen my pencil? What would make me a little bit more efficient on the finance side?
Yeah,
I think that would help. Yeah, but then create a strategy. Yeah, once you've got a goal, once you've got a plan, you can build a structure. You can put the infrastructure in, and if you've got a sound financial start in life, you're always going to do pretty well.
Yeah. And we've probably known each other now for, I want to say 6 years.
Yeah, I'd say
probably
about 6 years.
Maybe getting on 7 years.
Yeah.
And that obviously came through a recommendation. And we've been working together since, built a good relationship.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it was for me a little bit at the start when I'm speaking to people about finances and having that level of trust to share information and just discuss finances in general with a person. It can be quite challenging.
Yeah.
So what I would like to do is just rewind a little bit, get back into your background. How did you get into it? Yeah. And you've obviously set up your own company now, Hallam Wealth.
Yeah.
But how did you first start your journey? So let's take it all the way back to school.
Yeah.
Were you just a maths whiz at school?
Absolutely not. No. I was a really average student, if I'm honest. So C's, got a couple of B's, got good marks in maths, good marks in PE, and drama, and that was probably about it. But I didn't really try. It was one of those where my philosophy was kind of, if I've not learned it in the lesson, I'm probably never going to learn it.
Yeah.
So let's not study. Let's just enjoy myself. And then I went to college, local college, Bilborough College, and I did PE, media, and performing arts.
Wow.
None of them
Very
economics,
different.
no business,
Very
no
different.
nothing like that. And looking back, that was probably a regret. But I ended up dropping performing arts in the first year because the exam date was the day I was meant to be on my first lad's holiday. So
Can't miss that.
no, it was a good holiday as well, to be fair. So I kind of went down to 2 subjects.
Yeah.
My media teacher at the end of the year said, actually, we think you're dyslexic. We don't think you could do media next year. We don't think you should do media next year. And I was like, well, I've got to 16, 17 now and done all right. So I'm going to carry on.
Yeah.
And I scraped by with C's, and I didn't want to go to university. I was fed up with education, and I was kind of, I didn't realise what I was good at or know what I was good at.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine got me a job in the bank on the counter.
Oh, wow.
So I started at the Halifax on the as a cashier.
Yeah.
County cash. I share it every single day.
Yeah.
Pretty much. My God rest the soul. My counter supervisor will pat that. And very quickly they moved me from the counter to the banking hall as a banking advisor, opening bank accounts, setting up credit cards, personal loans. And that's when I realised actually I quite enjoy it. I enjoy the numbers piece. I enjoy saving people money. You know, to be able to sit there and say, I've saved £100 a month.
Everyone wants to save a penny or two.
You add real value, right? So if you think about where people struggle or have stresses, most of the time it's coming from finance pressures or bills, expenses being more than they should be. And that causes sleepless nights. And I was able at a very young age to try and help people and save people a lot of money, which then gave me a bit of a gratitude, bit of feeling good.
Rewarding.
Yeah. And I decided that I was going to take it properly, take the career seriously. Realised I was never going to be a professional footballer. So I
Like us all. Yeah.
Sat that off and did my financial advising qualifications. Became a financial advisor at Halifax, went to Lloyds Bank when they merged. And then in 2011, we all got made redundant. Financial advising in Lloyds Bank was not a thing anymore. Moved it away. And I was really lucky that a member of the commercial banking team rang me and said, do you want a job? And that's when my learning really started. Up to that point, I was textbook smart financial advising, but I didn't really understand the economy. I didn't really understand what drivers made businesses good. I didn't really understand what clients needed and wanted.
Yeah.
And I really didn't understand how to talk to them either, really. I was very much a retail advisor. So I had a great team. I joined a really good team in Nottingham, and I was doing 7 days a week, learning about accounts, learning about accountancy, learning about corporate finance, learning about how businesses work. And that gave me a thirst for more knowledge.
Right.
And the bank managed to move me all over the country. I managed to work in different areas of the bank. So asset-based lending, bond issuance, teams with social housing, loads of things like that mean absolutely nothing to anybody, but they gave me a great education. Up to a point where I was comfortable and confident enough to have my notice in and set up Hallam Wealth.
Wow. And how long have you had Hallam Wealth?
So I set Hallam Wealth up in, I left the bank 10th of March, 2020. I got my FCA approval license on the 1st of April 2020 in the middle of start of lockdown.
I was about to say, sounds like it was around COVID.
That's right, yeah. And then it was like grow your business from a standing start. And 4 years later, we're looking after about 640 clients. I've got 2 other advisors in the team. We've got 3 support staff who are friends for the last 15 years who have trusted me to come and work with me. And we support clients all over the country. It's
going well.
We're enjoying it, which is the important thing. And it's going well, but we're working really hard and making a difference, which is good. That's the bit that I get a bit of a kick out of.
Good. And I know that this next part that I'm just going to go on to, I don't know how much you know these days of what goes off in schools and what people learn and all the rest of it. It's probably more my department with the business I run. But I just want to touch upon, you mentioned a little bit about your school background. There's often a debate of the correct things aren't taught in schools.
Yeah.
And things that you mentioned earlier on in this conversation, mortgages, general finances, taxes, things like that. Do you think that enough is taught from, when you're at school? Because I think some of those topics need to be taught.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, I think it's as important as food technology or design technology, woodwork or whatever it might, science, whatever it might be. Everybody, the challenges with money, with finance, everybody's got to deal with it, whether you like it or not. It's kind of something that's forced upon you, and normally it's forced upon you when you leave school or leave university.
And also, no matter what you've got, how much you've got,
absolutely,
you have to deal with it. You have to manage it in the correct way.
And the little basics of spend less than I earn. Just little things like that make a huge difference, or save a little bit every single month, or set a strategy in place because I'm saving for something. It's very easy for us all now to just borrow, go for a credit card, go for a loan. And that creates the wrong behaviors because suddenly then you're paying for the capital as opposed to having the capital ready. And you have a lot more flexibility once you've got the savings in the bank.
Yeah.
I agree. I think, I echo your point. I think a lot more could be done.
Yeah, I think one of the problems is, like you say, people get to a point where they leave school and actually it's the first they're hearing about, they want to get onto the property ladder. It's very, very hard to do that, especially these days.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just a bit of a minefield of where do I start? Yeah. And people don't know. And I think the other side of that is with social media and technology and everything, there's so much out there. You kind of don't know what to believe. And one rule I kind of live by, whether it's right or wrong, is if it looks too good to be true, normally it usually is.
And that's absolutely the case. In my experience, that's absolutely the case. I think there's that Denzel Washington quote in there around if you read the news, and if we change news for the internet, if you read the internet, you're misinformed. If you don't read anything, you're uninformed. Yeah. And that's kind of what, with finance, I speak to a lot of clients who think they know lots because they've been on a Google page or they've searched it and they've done a lot of research. And actually, all they've really learned is a little bit, but they don't actually know particularly how to implement that into a strategy. Yeah.
So my next point then is kind of touched upon the apps that are out there and the, I guess, resources in a way of how people can access information, advice, investment platforms, things like that. I'm going to just ask it bluntly. Why should someone, work with yourself, for example, rather than just downloading an app on my phone? And let's take eToro, for example, following an expert on there that's made a load of cash, and I can just copy everything they do in their portfolio.
Yeah. Great question. So it's a bit broader what we do as financial advisors. I think the general financial advising industry would say that we create bespoke plans. So I've been doing this job a long time now with businesses and individuals, and I don't think I've ever given the same advice twice. I think everybody's goals, everybody's aspirations have been completely different along the way, and that creates a different attitude to risk. Everybody's got their own circumstance, so they've got their own capacity for loss. They've got savings. They might not have savings, which allows them to take a little bit more risk or not as much risk. Yeah. I think the challenge of copying somebody on an eToro or a Harvey's Lansdowne that's made millions is they can be a bit more flexible with their approach and they can take a bit more risk than others. And it's not a like-for-like situation. So it's one way to invest. It absolutely is. But in my personal view, I don't think it's probably right for everybody.
Yeah, but I think one thing that stands out as being important for myself, at least, is to be able to pick up the phone and have that conversation. I've been on those platforms and seen those platforms, but at the end of the day, if I've got a question or if I want some advice or something answering, I can't access that there. Yes, there's probably a section on the app that gives you some advice or some information. It's not the same as speaking to a person.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think by talking it through, you can talk through the pros and cons of a strategy or an approach to an investment. You can talk through the risk that you're about to take on. Yeah. A great example is the last 2 years where there's been quite a lot of volatility in the market. As the market drops by quite a bit, if you're just following an app and somebody who's made a couple of million, how do you know what's happening in the background? Who can you talk it through with? Who's your angel on the shoulder that's going to talk you through the worry beads? That's where an advisor really does come in, as well as the wider tax planning, the wider estate planning, the wider asset management and diversification planning. I'd like to think that any of my clients could pick up the phone and just say, look, is everything okay? What's happening and what's the reason for this happening? And be able to logically explain that.
And I guess a lot of your work would be looking forward. I guess looking back and looking forward to see what's happened and what you think is going to happen.
I think that's really important. That a lot of people, when they look at investing, they always look at the past performance, don't they? They always think, I did this last year, and actually that's gone. It's been and gone. The performance last year was a direct result of where funds were invested last year. Actually, what's important is the plan going forward and how you manage your risk going forward. So the returns will be the returns. You managing your own risk and making sure you're only investing the amount you can afford to invest safely. I think that's really important.
So how would you, I guess, advise on what risk a person should take? Because you get different personalities and you might get someone that, I'm going to risk it all. And then you get you get someone else that is very cautious, doesn't want to have much risk. How do you then advise that? And where do you start with that?
So we do something called a financial report. We do something called a financial review, where we take a snapshot of somebody's financial circumstance. So we'll look at their income, we'll look at their expenditure, we'll look at how much surplus or deficit they've got on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
We'll look at their assets, we'll look at their liabilities, and then we do something called cash flow forecasting, which plans out their finances for the next 15, 20 years.
Okay.
With that, what we're looking for is how much is their capacity for loss? Can you afford for a dip in your funds?
Yeah.
And will you still be able to achieve what you want to achieve in the future? Can you afford for the volatility in the market? And what we plan for is on an assumption basis or an assumed basis of what the growth rate might be to try and meet their needs. And everybody's circumstance is completely different. If you have somebody that's got like a really low capacity for loss, so not much in savings, that doesn't really have a surplus on a monthly basis, and they come to me and say, I want to invest a load of money, I want to go high risk. It's a logical, straightforward, honest conversation around what would happen if this happened to your funds. How would you feel about that, and what would your direct response be? And that then creates a different strategy. Some people, you cannot see the wood for the trees, and you read a lot online, and for those kind of people, we choose not to work with them. We kind of say, look, this is the benefit of an advisor. This is the support we're willing to give. Advice is just advice at the end of the day. You can either take it or you don't want to. And if you don't want to, we're probably not the right partner for you in financial advising. So,
which leads me on to a question I was going to ask in terms of who you work with and how you select who you work with, if that's the right way of putting it. Are you open to working with anyone regardless of their, financial state? You're open to working with anyone?
Yeah, so I've got kind of an open door policy that I think everybody should get financial advice. I'm a big fan of people having financial advice, and I don't want to deter people away from doing that. So I have an open door policy that if anybody wants financial advice, they can come and see anybody in my business, and we'll give them the best service we can. And I think that's quite important. The bit is trying to get them to come forward and actually sit down with you and try and get some financial advice, because they ultimately think financial advisor, it's going to cost me a lot of money and I need a lot of money to sit down with you. And that's not necessarily the case, and your circumstance will dictate what financial advice you get and want.
So how does it work? It's all fantastic that you give advice to people and you can guide them along the way on their journey, no matter what they're going through and all that kind of thing. But what does it cost them? How does that work?
So we price it on an individual basis, depending what advice we're going to give. Usually we do a financial review. We sometimes charge for that financial review if it's just, I want some cash flow forecasting so I understand my situation. And then if you invest, there's normally a percentage charge on an initial advice fee basis.
Right.
And every financial advisor that I've come across normally charges an ongoing advice fee. Right. And that can range between 0.5 and 1% for the advice you're receiving.
Right. Okay, great.
It's probably driven by how complex the needs are.
Okay.
The higher the complex, the larger charge.
Okay. And obviously it can be a bit daunting, like we've said, to get in touch with you and be open to having that conversation. What is the easiest way for people to actually get in touch with you?
So we've got a LinkedIn page, we've got a website, we've got my mobile phone numbers all over the internet, which sounds a bit weird. It's all over my website. Drop a message. Honestly, if you can drop a message directly to the practice, you can drop a message directly to me, or any other financial advisor. If you go on any financial advisor's website, just drop a message and say, look, I'm interested in financial advice. I'd like to know if I'd actually benefit from it. But I don't know a financial advisor in the area that wouldn't sit down with somebody and say, right, let's see if you would benefit from financial advice. And I think 99% of people would get something out of that.
Great.
100%.
Do you have any examples, obviously without naming names and things like that, of clients that you've got or previously had that have benefited from it, and you can tell us a little bit about their journey and how they've benefited?
So we've got...
Sorry, I put you on the spot there, I know.
So we've got one client in the last 12 months, sat down for the first time I'd met them, and they were looking at cutting costs. Right, so we've got a little bit too much going out. Inflation's come in, bills have gone up. We need to cut things out. At that time, there was a direct debit for some life and critical illness insurance, and they were like, actually, we don't need it. If we think about the diet, we think about the pensions we've got, we're actually in a really good spot. At the same time, husband was about to go to a doctor to get something checked. I said, look, just hold fire on that insurance policy. You never know. Worst case scenario, you could play money. Best case scenario, you don't need it. Turned out it was a cancerous piece of skin, cancerous lump on the skin, and client claimed money on that, managed to pay off their mortgage, which then saves them about £400 a month, and now in a really healthy position financially. There's pensions, investments that we work with, that we get involved at times where people are about to retire, when people don't actually think that they can retire. So on a separate client basis, we had a client contact us last year, worked for a manufacturing firm, fed up with working, didn't know if they could retire. And they were like early 50s, so 57, 58.
Right.
And they were like, well, do you think I can retire? We did our cash flow forecasting. We did lots of sensitivity analysis to say, actually, market crashes, would you be okay? And they were able to retire within 3 months of sitting down with us. They were in a really healthy position. They just never knew, because they never took the option to, and actually they could have retired about 3 years earlier.
You haven't given me the retirement option yet.
Got the words to.
And how do you keep people educated? So they sit down with you initially, and in my head, there's a bit of an ongoing education there, which is probably partly your responsibility to help them with.
Absolutely.
In terms of sources where they can constantly be learning about what's happening in the market they're interested in. How do you keep them up to date with what's going on and general education?
Yeah. That is difficult because it changes every budget that comes out as well. There's lots of new things to learn. So we have like an e-briefing service that we can send out. I've just sent it out to clients to sign up to. That will send like a weekly, monthly and quarterly economic briefing to say, look, this is what's happening in global economies right now. So, and a lot of people won't understand what that means. So then they can pick up the phone, they can book a meeting straight away to talk about those kind of things. We've got an insights page on our website that you can click on, and it'll tell you a little bit about pensions. It'll tell you a little bit about investments. It'll tell you the basics that you need to know. And every single client meeting is one of those chances to have an education. It's one of those chances to teach somebody something new about a pension, tax benefit of a pension, or a tax benefit of an investment.
Yeah. And pensions sometimes get labelled as old-fashioned. I've heard that a little bit. Are they? Should everyone have a pension?
Yeah. So, are they old-fashioned? I suppose they are old-fashioned. There's loads of benefits for having a pension. There's loads of tax relief. There's lots of benefits of growth of a pension. They give you the facility and the ability to pass on wealth from generation to generation, tax-free. They give you the ability to retire and not work anymore. So it's a savings vehicle that offers a structure for you to get to a goal in the future. So I don't think it's old-fashioned. I think they've been around a long time, and there's been lots of changes in how pensions are used.
It's still very necessary.
Absolutely relevant and necessary. Yeah, 100%.
Great. And can you tell us some common misconceptions that people have of the finance world, and maybe some common mistakes that people tend to make with their finances?
A lot of people chase gains. So you'll sit down with people and they're like, oh, I want better returns, or I want the best returns in the marketplace. And in reality, the best returns in the market, there's nobody out there getting the best returns in the marketplace year after year after year. It just, unfortunately, just that way. And it
would be good if it did.
Oh, absolutely. And if you manage to get the best returns year after year after year, you'd make a few quid.
Yeah.
But what's really important is you have a structure there, and you actually have a long-term goal, and you put a bit of infrastructure in place to work along. It's a bit like when an athlete starts training for something, and the end goal is to run the 100 meters as quickly as possible, or you do an Ironman and you want to do it as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
You put a whole strategy in place to be able to do that. A lot of people close their eyes, bury their head in the sand, and at some point in the future, believe or hope that things will be okay without putting that structural plan in place. So one of the main misconceptions would be that don't just wait for it to happen. You've got to plan about it. You've got to really put structure in.
And do you think it's sensible to, because like you say, if you've got a goal, you put a plan in place to get to that goal. But one thing I've learned in some of the things I've been doing is I've got a goal, and then I work backwards.
Absolutely.
From that goal.
Yeah.
To understand how I can get there.
Totally. If you look at most of the retirement conversations we have with clients, is I want to retire, and they go, I've got a pot of £500,000. Can I retire? And that's the wrong question. The wrong question is, what's your expenditure? Because when we know your expenditure and we know what you're paying out, then we know what the pot can provide, how much you're going to spend on a monthly basis. At that point, you know when you can retire. And that's the same with savings. That's the same with most things.
Yeah, because I guess if your outgoings are extremely high, then it's going to be harder.
You need a bigger pot.
Unless you're cutting back.
Absolutely, yeah. And if your expenditure is really, really low, you may be there before you know it.
Yeah, it ultimately depends on what the individual wants, and I guess what they've got going on in their life at that time.
And that changes, right? So if you look at, we worked together like 5 or 6 years, you look at how your life's changed and evolved over those 5 or 6 years. 2-year gaps, you could probably break it into and say, actually, at this point I was here, then I was here, now I'm here.
Yeah.
And actually in the next 5 years, I hope to be here. It changes all the time. People have families, people get divorced, people get remarried, people lose loved ones. All those things are happening all the time. And they're things outside of your control and things you probably don't plan for.
Yeah. And the next one made me laugh a little bit because I often see this guy pop up on social media, TV, Martin Lewis, the money man, and advises on all sorts.
He's the most quoted bloke in like meetings with clients. Absolutely.
Yeah, he's always coming out with something and some good advice that I've seen from him. Am I right in comparing you to a Martin Lewis, or am I way off?
No, so Martin Lewis serves an absolute purpose in regards to he covers basic knowledge, informative knowledge for the masses. What he doesn't do is create bespoke plans for individuals, strategies for individuals. So a great example is pensions and paying up your national insurance contributions. 95 to 99% of financial advisors will be having those conversations with clients on a yearly basis. But what he did is he brought it to the attention of the rest of the people that don't have financial advice. And I saw a stat the other day that 8% of the population use financial advice, which means he's probably touching the other 92% that don't get financial advice.
Which is massive.
Which is huge. Now, the next step to that and the evolvement from that is those 92% of people going to get their own individual plan and seeking some support or putting a strategy in place to do what they want to do. They may have it nailed. They may have it all. But to have a chat with a financial advisor who says, actually, have I got it nailed? Have I thought about everything?
Yeah.
Be worth it.
And one thing I like from the conversations that we've had previously is, not only do you look at personal circumstance and plan depending on what that person's got going on, but also knowledge of what is actually going on in the world. Because I guess some of the factors that change where things are going in which direction come from events that are happening, not even necessarily on our doorstep. Can you just talk to us a little bit about, for example, let's take COVID and how that affected the economy? Because I think a lot of people, obviously they know what COVID is and what happened and the effect it had, but in terms of the effect it had on the economy and the ripple effect almost, can you talk us through a little bit about that and give us a bit of knowledge to how something could occur that could then affect finances?
I think you're seeing it right now. So I'll touch the COVID thing. Right now, in the last week, we've seen earthquakes in China. We've seen one of the main banks in China file for insolvency. It's no surprise off the back of that, you see Chinese stocks or Asian stocks dropping a little bit. And when you see the markets moving up and down, you do see there's normally logic for it. They don't just move up and down because that's what the market does. They've got investment directors, the fund managers that are buying and selling stock at any one time, and that's driven by supply demand. It's driven by insight, optimism, pessimism of a certain stock. There is reasons for the movements, and all we try and do when we sit down is look at what's happened, look at Bloomberg, see what's happened in the marketplace, seeing what's happening in those geographic
So it's
areas.
not just random that it's just going up and down, up and down, up and down.
It's not because somebody somewhere's got an algorithm and think, actually, it looks better, like a heartbeat, it looks better if it goes up and down. Absolutely not. No, it's driven by things that are happening in the economy. So if you think about COVID, when it first came out and the government first came out, it's not a shock, was it? It wasn't a CD. When it first happened and it started to escalate, and then it got to a point where the government thought, actually, this is really, really serious. What we need to do is restrict people's movements. It's no surprise then that share prices dropped because there's a lot of unknown. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of actually pessimism around people's business models. What we found really quickly was businesses managed to adapt. There was the NHS would continue to work. They needed stock, so the supply chains of the NHS would continue to work. So what we saw was those share prices did pretty well, and there was quite a lot of share prices that did pretty well in that time, especially if they continued trading. But that's logical, right? So what we feared wasn't quite right, and then as we looked through the next couple of months, we actually saw it play out the way that it played out, and people made quite a lot of money in that period of time in the next six to 9 months.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people make money depending on the time they go into the market, and timing is often spoke about with these sort of things, but no one can predict the future, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And when to time the market. So what's your advice with, I'm going to get onto a little bit more about crypto and Bitcoin and stuff and ask you a couple of questions in a moment.
Yeah.
But in terms of timing the market in order to make good amounts of money, what's your thoughts and advice on that?
I wouldn't try and time it. No, I've got no idea what the market will do in the next 12 months, if I'm honest. It's and if you find anybody that says they do know what's going to happen in the next 12 months, I'd tip my hat to them and pat them on the back, because nobody can see into the future. It's just
we can have an idea, but you never know.
You can look at probability, you can have an educated opinion, but in reality, nobody had an educated opinion. That actually, I think there was one guy that was on BBC News at some point saying that COVID was going to happen, but he said it every year for about 20 years. So he was a broken clock's right twice a day, right? So, it's unlikely that you're going to be able to fit that. So I wouldn't look at time in the market. I'd go back to your plan and say, actually, what do I want to do? Where are my assets invested? And what do I need them to do over the next 5 to 8? And regularly review them. Regularly have conversations with your financial advisor, making changes. Should we make changes? Have I got enough cash in the bank for my emergencies? Have I got enough money invested? Should I take advantage? Have those conversations and create your own structure. Don't follow the masses. Don't look at trying to be cleverer than the market. Don't try and be cleverer than an economy.
Really. And would you advise diversification?
Yeah, 100%. Especially when it's volatile. In the last couple of years, it's been quite a volatile time to be an investor. I think if you can manage your risk, and one of the main jobs of a financial advisor is preservation and risk management. I think if you can manage that risk through diversification and covering your assets cleverly or smartly, or
can you explain in simple terms why that's important?
So if you imagine, I don't know, all your money is in property, and property values start to come down, the risk there is that all your money is fully affected. If you try to sell that property as the market's coming down, it's likely you're going to be able to sell it quickly. It's going to take a long period of time. You're not going to have any liquidity. Whereas if you've got diversification, you've got different asset classes being held, whether you've got property, stocks and shares, bonds, fixed interest accounts, gilts, cash, alternative investments like steel, commodities, coffee, things like that. You've got different options. An investor that's got options can always do something. It's very unlikely that all asset classes will be shut down or losing money at the same time. So by diversification, what you do is you give yourself as an investor more options, and you give yourself more ability to be able to do what you want to do when you want to do it.
Minimize the risk. If one goes down, hopefully the other one's up.
Yeah, hopefully.
For example, in basic terms.
Yeah, hopefully. Or looking at the other way, you've always got accessibility to funds. You've got different levers. That old adage of don't put all your eggs in one basket. That's still relevant today. It's imperative in anybody's investment structure. Same with a business, right? If you're a business and your turnover is from one source, you've got a real risk. If that turnover, if that sale doesn't come through, you've still got overheads to pay. So diversification in client terms for a business is really, really important. It's no different when you look at investments. It's no different when you look at any kind of risk management.
Yeah, really good advice. Yeah, thank you. And my next one is crypto and Bitcoin. Do you invest in crypto and Bitcoin?
I don't know. That's that question a lot.
Yeah.
It's not an area I'm really comfortable with.
Yeah. Because what is it?
What is Bitcoin?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of people listening that has heard people talk about crypto and Bitcoin, and I often hear conversations, people talking about it, and I actually think, do you actually even know what it is?
So I'll give you my view of what Bitcoin is, and I don't know if that's the same as, because there's a lot of people out there a lot cleverer than me, and I don't know if you watched that film Bitcoin. Have you seen that on Netflix?
I haven't seen it, no.
Watch it.
It's good.
Blew my mind. So my idea of Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, is they're just a currency, and you could have anything as a currency. For example, you could have 1,000 of these cups. And if you wanted to buy something off somebody like this, if you had this globe and I wanted to buy it off you, and you said, actually, I really need cups, I'll have 50 of them, and I had 50 cups, I've got a currency that's 50 cups. Bitcoin's like that, but it's an algorithm. It's a 1 or 0. It's an online currency that you can't see, you can't touch, that is created with the name of Bitcoin that you can exchange for goods or for other currencies. That's my understanding.
And more people are accepting it?
Yeah, I think so. I think the announcement today, I think with Bitcoin, I think it's becoming more and more, well, if you look at the amount of money that's being invested in Bitcoin, it's definitely getting some weight behind it. I think if you watch that film, one of the worrying stats is how much is being seized at the moment, and how much, with it being unregulated, there's a lot of money that's going into there that shouldn't be going into there. There's a lot of unknown there. One of the stats, the scary stats on that film at the end was in 2017, something like 4.6 billion pounds was invested in cryptocurrency in 2017, and 79% of that was fraudulent.
Wow.
Which is scary, right?
Yes, high percentage.
Yeah. So for me, looking after clients' funds, protecting and preserving clients' funds, it's just not an area I can trust or would like to work in.
Yeah, and the same for you personally then.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's a speculation. It's probably a bet. I don't, when I look at it, we've spoken about the market going up and down.
Yeah.
I don't understand, and this might be my lack of knowledge, it might be my lack of understanding. I don't understand how crypto goes up and down other than consumer discussions online, or I find it scary that Elon Musk can create such value overnight
Through a tweet.
for a tweet. I think that's nuts.
Yeah.
Whereas with pound sterling, if you compare it to other currencies that we use on a daily basis, pound sterling, dollar, euro, people need it for trade. Businesses need it for trade. They hold it in current accounts. It's regulated. It's protected. There's certain protections out there for it. I think that's a lot more secure for people.
Yeah.
And a speculation bet like crypto for me is too much risk for any of my clients.
Yeah.
They might do it in their own time. They might do it in their own thing. But
yeah,
it's not something I provide advice on.
Okay. Well, if anyone else has got any further advice, comment in the section below. Okay, great. And just coming away from work then and finances, I'm sure you speak about it all day, every day, and at times it must get tiring. What do you do to de-stress? And everyone needs to de-stress and take a little bit of a step back sometimes. What do you personally do to de-stress?
Golf. I play golf.
I knew you were going to say that.
I play golf every Saturday morning at Wallington Park. I love it. It's 4.5, 5 hours sometimes of just walking around the field, looking at deer.
Any good?
No. I play my handicap. Yeah, my handicap single figure. It's about 8, so 8.2, I think. Yeah. Another I'll check every day. So I really enjoy that. And I get to deal with clients. I really enjoy that element. Walking the dog, spending time with my wife, those kind of things. Family, my mom, my dad, brothers. Those kind of things are the things that I really enjoy. They're all clients now. So all they want to do is talk about the pensions or investments. So it's turned into work now. But that's what I do to switch off. I started turning my phone off from like 6 at night till 6 in the morning.
Okay.
Because I used to get lots of phone calls in the evenings and I really struggled to switch off. So I've started doing that now just because I do struggle to switch off. I've got an active mind anyway, a bit like yourself. Like I'm always thinking about the next thing. That's really important for me now.
Here's me. I've probably been messaging you after 6.
No, I don't mind that.
Okay, great. And just to finish, before we've got 10 quick fire questions, as you know, we do that at the end. So I'm going to go into that in just a moment. But I just want to finish this conversation before we get into that on your top tips for people. So whether they've invested before, seen a financial advisor before, or they've got no knowledge of anything we've just spoken about, what are your top tips for people moving forward to help them with their finances?
So I think the first thing to do would be speak to an expert, have an idea of what you want to achieve. So have a plan, have a structure, and then speak to an expert about how do you implement a strategy to reach what you want, to have a goal, and how do you reach that goal with a strategy. And I think stick to it. And at times it will move a lot slower than you want it to. And at times it will move a lot quicker than you want it to. But regularly review it and make sure it fits your lifestyle and fits what you want to achieve from your finances. And meet. So the second tip there would be, don't just go with your first financial advisor you meet. I recommend with any new client for me, go speak to another 9, 10 advisors. Go find somebody that you trust. You said earlier, I think, around to trust somebody, have an open conversation, feel like they challenge you, but also feel like they're adding value, and find an advisor that you want to work with, because people want to work with different people. Find the one that you want to work with, and that might not be a financial advisor forever, right? You might work with them for 5 years and then want to change. And that's absolutely fine. That's absolutely okay.
And you're an expert in your field. Can you tell us how long does it take you to qualify, and become an expert? Because, it's not something you can just walk straight into.
No. So I originally qualified it in the early 2000s, and it was 3 exams, and it took about 9 months. The regulator pulled in another level of advice in the early 2010s, 11s, RDR, and that was another 5 exams for me. That took another 9 months. Now you only have to do those 5 exams. So about a year it take you to qualify. Become an expert. I'm like, what? 16, 17 years in, worked with corporates, worked with individuals. I'm nowhere near an expert, but I'm really lucky that I've got people around me that know little bits about different areas. And I don't think I'll ever will be an expert. So like right now, Bitcoin cryptocurrency question, I'm nowhere near an expert in that. I've just given you like my understanding is, and that might be completely wrong. Yeah. But if somebody really wanted a conversation around it, I'd introduce them to somebody who knows a lot more than me. Yeah. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, building your network, having the people around you.
Yeah. I think if you're going to do, I had this conversation with one of my advisors yesterday around, jack of all trades. Do I need to know a little bit about everything? Or shall I just specialize and know something about one thing? And it's a great question, and I don't know the answer. You'll know the answer at some point in the future.
Yeah.
I probably know a little bit about everything, but not everything about something. Yeah. And that kind of works for me. But it might not work for you as you're going on your journey as a financial advisor or learning around finance.
Yeah. Well, good answer. Very modest. 10 quick fire questions then. So let's get onto these. Right, just to finish. So, number 1 piece of advice you wish someone would have given you at the start of your career.
My team would say it would be some days you're the dog and some days you're the lamppost. So what that means is some days you'll have a really good day and you'll feel on top of the world. And then some days, things outside of your control, it will just go bad. But the important thing is that actually there's a new day tomorrow and you might just be the dog tomorrow.
Sounds like you're describing recruitment as well.
Is that right?
Yeah, very similar. I always describe it as a roller coaster. Okay, the best source to stay up to date with latest trends and developments in the finance industry.
I use Bloomberg. I pay for a membership there. They send me loads of emails every day. I have top 5 things to look at the start of the day, top 5 things to look at the end of the day, and all through the day, if anything changes, I get emails. I probably get about 20 emails a day off them.
Wow.
Brilliant source. The website's fantastic. Bloomberg TV is brilliant. So if you're bored at 5 o'clock in the morning, stick on Bloomberg TV.
They blew up at that time.
It was 4:55 this morning. I think I saw somebody was on a bike doing some training. But yeah, Bloomberg's brilliant. Honestly, you can talk about what drives the economy. Yeah, they explain it in layman's terms, which helps me understand, and then I can relay it to clients. It's brilliant.
Okay, great. Number 3, a must-have productivity tool or app that you use regularly.
You know what? I don't know. Calendar. Yeah. Outlook. Yeah, that's kind of helped keep me organised. I put my personal stuff in as well as my work stuff.
Yeah,
and it's the first thing I look at on a Sunday when I'm doing prep for the week. It's kind of like, where am I going to be Monday? Where am I going to be Tuesday? When do I start work? When do I finish work? Where can I spend time with the wife? Those kind of things.
I need to take that advice because I'm still working with an old school.
Hey, calendar?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I
go everywhere.
I'm on the phone all the time, but I've always got my diary on there. Always, I just like writing it down and seeing what we do.
A friend of mine, he's a police officer, and he's got a whiteboard, and every month. Or every week or every month, he sets out his whiteboard, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yeah.
I find that cracking.
Yeah, I write everything in my diary and then I tick it off as I go as well.
Do you really? So you put a line through it to have completed it?
Each day I'd put a tick next to it. Okay, done that. Almost like a to-do, yeah.
To me, that's just routine.
Yeah.
Do you know when you started doing that?
Yeah. A long time ago.
Was it?
Yeah, years ago, yeah.
Do you collect your diaries as well? Do you keep them?
I do. Yeah, you know what? Today I've actually put my 2023 diary right behind you on that shelf because, I thought... It's actually the white folder at the top, on the right hand side.
This one?
Yeah. If you take that and then go to the left, the little black book. No, there. Yeah. That's 2023.
I'll get you a better.
Yeah, I need a better one. It's not that posh, but there's loads of stuff in there. So
that's unbelievable.
Yeah, I need to get on the app.
What do you do with them all?
I just. In case I need to refer back, I don't know.
You notebooks as well.
I do. And actually, I've been known to go back and
you make great notes.
I make a lot of notes. Yeah, so I always go back to them.
Yeah.
Old school, but maybe I need to catch up. Anyway, number 4, your favorite aspect of helping clients with wealth management.
seeing them achieve their goals. So whether it's a business owner that's working towards selling as a business, or it's a lady or a gentleman looking to retire in the next 5-10 years, and then on that day when they retire, and the notice in and say, actually, I'm done. That feeling never gets beaten. Alternative, like saving people money on mortgages or loans, and giving them, you see when you sit down with them the pressure that's on their heads to actually, I've just saved £300 a month. That's £3,600 a year. Brilliant. That we can do with it now. Like, what's the next step? That's the goal. What's that allow you to do in the future?
People progress, and
I'm lucky enough to work with some really, really successful people, really, really ambitious people who become my inspiration, and they are, that's the bit as well that I really get. Right. If I need like any motivation to get up, I just literally look at my client base and think, I need to do something.
Get to work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Number 5, favorite golf course that you've ever played.
Ooh. I'd probably say Royal Birkdale in Liverpool. I took my second year trading. I treated my dad and my 2 brothers to a 4-ball there. It was the best day. We drove up there. We played one course one day and Royal Birkdale the next day. And it's
we still need to have a game at some point.
Yeah, we do. I'm not playing for money because I think you'll.
Oh, bloody hell! I'm useless. Number 6, if you could give one financial tip to every client, what would it be?
A plan. Yeah,
we spoke about it a lot in this conversation. So, plan it out.
Doing things without a plan is just doing things. Like have a goal at the end of it, have a strategy, and create a plan for it. I think that's really, really important.
Great. And your team that you work with every day, how do you foster a positive work culture within your team?
I think they'd argue I don't. I'd like to be positive. I've got a saying in the office that's always forward, never back. So if we have a bad day, we have a bad client meeting, just look forward, don't dwell on it, and look at how you can make somebody else better off in the future. And that kind of keeps the mindset in place. The other thing that I do is I choose to do things. So if you think about a job you don't like doing, and you think, I have to do that job, it comes with a load of negative connotations. It might be cleaning the house or something, which is what my wife said to me last night. And I'm like, do I have to do that? I don't really, I'm not good. I don't want to do that. I choose to do it. So, and that's the same, I think, in the work, like writing a report, having a difficult conversation with a client, those kind of things. Choose to have those conversations. Because the connotations that you get off the back of it by choosing it are a lot more positive. They're a lot more healthier. So
great. Number 8, the biggest lesson that you've learned in your journey as a wealth management professional. What's the biggest lesson you've learned personally?
Everybody's different. Everybody's different. The same response to one client is not the same response to the next client. Everybody's got their own personality. Everybody's got their own hopes, dreams, goals, expectations. So don't treat anybody the same. Just be really, really honest with them and get to know them and understand their journey.
Great. Number 9, your morning ritual that sets you up for the day.
It's a 4:55 bike session in front of the team. It's not. It's not. It's
training, all right.
Max was on the bike at 4:55 this morning. I saw on his Instagram. So that's why it keeps coming.
Training for a triathlon. There's a reason behind it. Mental, I know, but someone's got to do it.
It would be a coffee, just a normal filter coffee from a coffee shop. I make a terrible coffee. And that's kind of my little bonus. It's my reset. It's the thing that kickstart my day. I read my Bloomberg, watching the Bloomberg, or drinking my coffee.
Did you know you could save yourself a bit of money buying a coffee every morning there?
Do you know, it happened the other day, actually. I thought it would. I asked for a filter. I asked for a filter coffee, and they've never got it on. And they always say, do you want an Americano at the same price? You should save yourself £2. I'm like, every time. And if you go at R6, they've never got a filter coffee on either.
Really?
Now I've said that, though, people are gonna.
That's it. Catch on. Good tip. And then finally, if you could switch roles with another business person in a different role, different sector, who would it be and why?
I don't know. I'd really like the job of Toto Wolff, or like a Christian Horner in an F1 team. Toto Wolff, because he's at other businesses as well. I'm a big fan of anybody that goes across sectors and has a similar effect. Gary Neville's a great example, right? He goes into football, one of the best, goes into punditry, one of the best.
Not management.
Not the best.
Give it a go.
Yeah,
Give it a go.
you can't be great at everything, can you?
Nah, I love watching Gary Neville stuff, to be fair, and how he got hotels, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Now he's doing
Restaurants,
well.
he's got podcasts,
Yeah.
and he just manages to turn his hand. And what he does, he commits 100% and says, "I'm going to do this to the best of my ability." Management, I bet he did too. Less visibility, and I bet he loses sleep over how bad it was.
Yeah. He sometimes brings it up, but anyway. But yeah, look, that concludes our conversation, and again, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate it, and I think there's some really key bits of advice there that people could take from it, and hopefully start speaking to people who can give them expert financial advice and help them with their future. So thanks again.
Thanks for the opportunity. Yeah, cheers.